Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, it's your host with the most, Griever, as always, and since you clicked that video, you read that title, and you know what it's time for. Season number 222 of Ragnarok is finally here. It's here, it's dropped. The first 10 episodes, 10 whole episodes, have dropped as of today, as of this recording, and I just got done watching the very first episode. Now, if you guys have been following my channel for any length of time, I am caught up with the manga, but the big thing I want to talk about is the fact that I reacted to both trailers, and those videos did quite well, but unlike most of the community that was skeptical, even pessimistic to a level about this season, considering the not exactly favorable reviews regarding season 1, this guy over here, well, I would be more of the optimistic sort of fan. And after watching episode 1, I gotta tell you guys, still optimistic. In fact, relieved to see that there is obvious improvements from season 1. Let's just get that discussion out of the way so we can talk about the episode. I even have notes this time. So yeah, right out of the gate, I think that the animation quality has already definitely improved since season 1. There's a lot more animation and stuff, and there is a couple of nitpicks that we can talk about as we go through the episode. As I said, I got notes so I don't forget anything, but right out of the gate, episode 1 pretty good. Episode 1 pretty solid pacing wise, and I like the decision in episode 1 right out of the gate to move certain scenes. Clearly they're going to dedicate each episode, maybe not the entire thing of course, but they're going to not exactly break it up in manga format. They took the entire round and they said, okay, as far as a manga chapter this works, but what works for an episode? And they're not doing all these cutaways. They actually, so far, from what I understand, they cut out a whole scene. It's a small scene, but about a page or two worth of Loki, Ares, and Hermes having a discussion. They just cut that out of there because it wasn't really adding anything to the scene. It wasn't necessary. And they also have shifted the backstory of Heracles clearly to another episode, probably the next episode. But they've already just moved on from that, and the episode is pretty much, alright, the introduction of Heracles before he enters the arena. We're jumping right out of the gate from the ending part of season 1 where Heracles and Jack have already entered the arena, and we begin the fight. And so far, as I said, the animation, by comparing it to season 1 versus now, definitely a lot better flow, a lot cleaner, not as choppy, and so far not seeing a whole lot in the way of stills. Not saying the animation is some god tier and it's leaps and bounds, but it's certainly a vast improvement at the very least. And a totally not obvious cut right here, just to remark on one thing that I missed on the back of my notes, was the Nemean lion attack by Heracles was not CGI and was absolute fire. That was so cool looking. It was extended. It looked badass. I just really forgot to remark on that. It was on the back side of the paper. I was on my notepad, so I forgot to mention that in the initial cut of this review. But yeah, so anyways, probably my favorite animated part of the entire episode. Just wanted to make that clear. Didn't want to forget to mention that. Now back with the rest of the review. It's definitely a good improvement, and so far looking quite good to me. So going through my notes here, let's talk about the opening and ending credits, just before I forget about that. The opening song, everyone seemed to really like it from the trailer. That seems to be the same song, if I'm remembering correctly. It's the same song. It's quite, I think it's okay. I thought the opening was lacking a little bit, and it actually made me nervous, because I recapped, and I watched the last episode of season 1, before watching episode 1 here, and I was a little skeptical because though there was animation, usually the openings have the best animation of a whole season, of a whole show. Everyone pours all their hard work into that. That's the general rule, and there was a frightening amount of little actual true full-blown animation from the character models and stuff, and that kind of worried me at first. So I wasn't so crazy. I like the song, but not so crazy about the actual opening itself. It's okay, but it's average at best. Nothing blew me away from that. The ending, however, I really like the ending. The ending song I actually like more than the opening song. I just do. It was just a nice song. I just liked the melody, liked everything about it, and I liked what they did with it. It was slow. It reminded me of some older school anime endings that were very much more somber and much slower and weren't exactly, you know, they had that same feel that this one had, and it seemed to focus completely on the Valkyrie sisters themselves, at least the ones we've met and are going to meet thus far. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that part. I liked, as I said, the opening just kind of made me nervous. It might grow on me as we go through these episodes, but the ending is so far I prefer out of the two. Then, as I already talked about, the animation is clearly a lot better. But they seemingly haven't gotten rid of the very clean and very straight-jawed stills. Like the animation, the quality of the models has remained, and that was one of my big things in Season 1, is that the quality of the models definitely look good for every shot. It's just there wasn't a whole lot of movement in those shots, a lot of cutaways of unmoving images, and people called it the PowerPoint anime as a result for certain episodes. Not so much this one. I didn't have much of a problem. I couldn't tell you if there was any problem animation-wise. It wasn't some crazy movie budget level Dragon Ball Broly or anything like that, but it was definitely passable, average for me, if not better. So definitely that. Now, here is, you can argue this is a hiccup, but it depends on, from here, how we go forward with this. There is some CGI. There's some CGI animated scenes in this episode, and not just the backgrounds or some summoning or something like that. No. The character models during the fight between Heracles and Jack, which of course we're starting here in round 4, and I like that we're hitting the ground running. We have the little introduction scene with Heracles, who's he fighting, and then we don't rehash the ending of Season 1. We just jump right into the fight. So I really appreciated that, so we can spend plenty of time in this season enjoying playing catch up from the manga. But the thing is, there was a little CGI. The CGI on Jack looks really clean, though. I will admit, Jack, it just might be the outfit, the cape, and the hat and everything, but Jack's looks almost seamless. You can tell that it's CGI, and the knives and stuff being CGI do not bother me. The knives and stuff like that. But the scene that this happens, Jack attacks Heracles with a bunch of knives, and Heracles is deflecting them, blocking them, taking a few hits. They're both CGI models at the time. Jack's looks clean, and the transition between them wasn't that noticeable, that obvious at first. And because, just so we know, and we will talk about the voice acting, I watch the episode both in Japanese with subtitles, because I don't know Japanese, and then I also watch the English dub, because so far the Record of Ragnarok in Season 1, I enjoyed the English dub. So, and as I'm English, sometimes I enjoy watching my anime, in a language I can understand. So with all that being said about the CGI, however, it was only one scene that I noticed, and it was obvious. Jack's model, as I said, looked really good, the transition, and I didn't mind it. I'm glad that the whole thing isn't that, and it seemed to be the faraway shots. Heracles looked okay, but much more obviously, maybe because, the muscles and the hair and stuff like that. And we'll talk about Heracles' hair, because that is a minus for me so far. Maybe they fix it later on, I don't know, but the Heracles' CGI model was much more obvious, but thankfully it seemed to only be for this one scene, just so they could showcase a lot of fast-pacing movements, a lot of moving objects at once, and then the rest of the episode seemed to be the regular animation. So not much of a problem there, and I enjoyed the animation of the fight thus far. And obviously everything looked pretty good. The thing is, as long as they keep those far away shots for the CGI, I think we'll be fine. As long as we're not going into the Kengan version of a fully CGI model, looking like a video game sort of thing for when Heracles fights up close and personal. As long as we don't do that, a little CGI here or there doesn't bother me as much, and it did look better than the Hermes stuff from Season 1. I think we can agree on that. Don't know about you guys. The Hermes stuff didn't bother me in Season 1 as much as other people, but it was way more obvious, way more noticeable than here, at least for me. Then what else we got? We got, the whole episode was the fight, yeah, and jumping, and as I said, we skipped a few lines. It seems to me, I was trying to reread some of the chapter afterwards, right before recording this, and it seems that we skipped a couple of scenes or a couple of lines between Loki, when Loki was talking, but maybe they're just moving that stuff around, because they moved around a lot in this in this episode. Heracles' backstory is omitted and they just continue the fight. They'll probably talk about, of course, they're going to show and talk about Heracles' backstory, but that's most likely going to happen in the next episode, I would say, going off of how the manga flowed. But yeah, and that's another good thing that I will once again have to say about this episode is they paced it extremely well. The lack of cutaways from, okay, let's just OVA from the manga. Once again, when you pick your media, things that flow well in a written format don't necessarily transition perfectly page by page, scene by scene, panel by panel to the screen. So thankfully, there was some thought put into this and they said, you know what, let's not cut away from the fight. Let's start the round and let's just have Jack and Heracles fight for the episode. And that was actually so far a really good decision. I'm glad we didn't get cut away, especially with the somewhat low expectations of the fan base going into season 1, or season 2. It was nice to see that they said, you know what, we're going to show that we have heard you guys and we're animating a lot more. We're doing a lot more animation where we spent more time on this, or etc., right? None of us, nobody on the internet, don't listen to Reddit and all the people on forums, don't listen to them. Nobody knows the details behind the closed doors of when they make these things, okay? Whose fault it is and who's doing what, when, and where. So, but either way, so far I've enjoyed that part of it. And oh yeah, so the voice acting. Now, as I said, it's hard for me to judge unless it's a really annoying voice or a voice that doesn't fit. The Japanese voice acting sounded fine to me, you know. So like, unless a big burly man starts to sound like a squirrel or has a really squeaky, high nasally voice or something like that, I'm not going to be able to really judge the Japanese voice acting as much. But the English stuff, I will say that the returning cast, I believe they're all the same returning cast. They all sound fine to me thus far, the ones we've heard, and I enjoyed them just like I enjoyed them in season 1. Though the two new ones that are finally announced and we got to hear was, of course, the two fighters, Jack the Ripper and Heracles, god of fortitude, or, you know, they say hero god, or they have a lot of words for him. He's got titles. Heracles' I like. It's pretty good. I hope that there's going to be a little more raw emotion behind some certain scenes, and he really, you know, starts speaking and rising from the gut sort of idea, because the voice isn't bad. It's the lack of layering. It's the lack of emotion being behind the voice. There's not enough power, and I think it's possible. I think there's definitely room for there to be more power behind the voice, to be more commanding presence sounding. It's not a bad voice, especially for the scenes where he's just talking and stuff like that. But we'll have to see in certain scenes that are, of course, going to be later on, how he can really bring a lot of emotion to the voice. But so far, not disappointed. It's pretty good thus far. But Jack's voice actor steals the damn show. Once again, I didn't see who is voicing who, so I have no idea. I think I recognized Jack's voice. I don't really know from where. Could be a video game, another anime, I don't know. Or maybe it's just sounded similar to something that I've heard before. But Jack's voice, zero problems. That was a great casting choice. I can't think of anybody who would have sold it better. He's got the creepiness into his voice. He's got the very like la-di-da, like I got a little bit of screws loose in the head when I talk, even though, yes sir, hello, enjoyable, indubitably. You know, he's got that creepiness, but he's got the suave. He very clearly worked on the voice, in my opinion, and does a fantastic job. Now, that being said, there is a couple of problems I had with certain lines, and it's not the English dub voice actors' fault. I don't believe they're the ones who make these decisions, but certain lines, especially one that really stuck out to me from Heracles, was near the beginning of the fight before they actually go toe-to-toe, is Heracles getting pissed off thinking about the fact that like Lubu and Adam and the people before him were heroes and they represented humanity in an honorable way and stuff like that, and you have the gall, like he's pissed off at his sister and stuff like that, he's pissed off at Brunhilde. You would dare to bring this cretin, this serial killer to me and stuff. And yes, certain lines in the manga, it does sort of match, but some of the lines are going to be kind of contradictory later from the English dub. One thing that really stuck out to me is that at no point does he say that Jack deserves death and stuff like that. And in the English dub, he basically says, this monster, I think he says monster, but I remember keenly that he says that doesn't even deserve to draw breath or to even breathe the air. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Not trying to spoil anybody going forward. There won't be spoilers necessarily. I don't think so. Trying to just keep to the episode and not talk about the manga. But that is sort of not exactly what Heracles was all about. So that's kind of like, wait a minute. Heracles is being a little too judgmental for his actual characterization and part of what made round 4 great. Not that he doesn't get angry at Jack or you know, he's like, this is a serial killer, and he did get mad at Brunhilde for bringing out such a, like, instead of being able to have an honorable duel with a warrior worthy of him, it was sort of a middle finger to Heracles, and he was pissed. But he doesn't deny that Jack is vile and Jack is a serial killer and Jack did horrible things, but he states more facts than actual judgment in the manga, and in the subtitles for the Japanese, he doesn't judge him either. The English dub choices to change the line, it was a poor decision in my mind. So that's an English dub only problem, so at least for me. But the only other things that I have written here is the Jack running away scene at the beginning of the fight. And the ba-doom, it was like, wait a minute, because it was comedic in the actual manga. Nobody expected that, and it was funny. And the fact that they added in the cartoonish Looney Tunes sound effects, oh yeah, that was some greatness. I was here for that. I was definitely here for that. That was funny and a great way to say, okay, we're gonna have some fun with this. The only other downside thing that I could see about was Heracles' hair. Heracles' hair, for some weird reason, they have chosen to give him this weird cockatoo thing. His hair is supposed to be like to the side, and from the preview that I saw for episode 2, which has Heracles' backstory, at least part of it by the looks of it, they know how to get his hair right. They know how to get his hair correctly. From the quick shot I saw of the Heracles backstory. So I don't understand why they've chosen to have changed his hairstyle, because it kind of looks dorky a little bit. I'm not as much of a fan. One of the things that I really liked about Heracles was his design in the manga and in the, you know, promotional material and stuff like that, and of course in the cover pages. And they've chosen to change his hairstyle or add more hair and change the shape of it in the back. And it was a little distracting in a couple of scenes, because I was like, I don't take him as seriously. He looks kind of dorky. They decided to give him more American drawn, like Superman and that old Western comic style of chiseled lines into his face and stuff like that. He's not as youthful looking. They seem to have really... Jack looks basically... shot for shot looks like he did in the manga. Heracles sometimes does, but sometimes he looks almost like they have their own anime design, which has actually deviated probably the most heavy of any of the characters in the series from season 1 and now 2. For some reason, they really changed up Heracles' look. They made him look like more grizzled and older in the face, and then changed his hair, and I don't think those were aesthetically good choices. So those are my only nitpicks, though. The episode, as I said, it went by too quick. Probably will watch episode 2 later on today. Might even record it, you know, if I finish it in time before supper and stuff. So, yeah, definitely liked it thus far. Got high hopes for the rest of the season, or at least the rest of the 9 episodes that we got that dropped today. I'll be doing every single episode, of course. I'll be reviewing every episode, so I hope you guys will stay tuned for those. And what did you guys think of episode 1? How did you watch it? Did you watch it with English dub, or did you just solely stay with the Japanese? And what faults did you find that I didn't mention here, or what good things did you notice, or that I didn't mention here, of course? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And yeah, I'm pumped to watch episode 2. I think Good vs. Evil was a great episode. It really was. It was solid. Didn't see a whole lot of flaws other than the little nitpicks I pointed out. So let's get excited for season 2, guys. Season 2 and round 4, the best round. It's finally animated, and I'm here for it. I'm pumped. Hope you guys are too. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you back here very, very soon, I'm sure, for the episode 2 review. Alright, everybody. We'll see you back here next time. Sayonara.